It's like the second show we've done together in a month outside of Sim Show. Hey, what's going on? Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Stochastic.com NFL Showdown live before lock. Philadelphia Eagles, Seattle Seahawks, Drew Lock, Geno Smith. Who the hell knows? We're going to find out. Jalen Hurts expected to play, but look, good thing you're here because we're going to figure this out together. Hopefully sooner than later, because we're still waiting on, I'd say, fairly pertinent news going into 8:15 lock. Total has come up to 46.5. It was down at 45. So the Geno being active, but not named the starter yet, maybe at all, definitely has an impact on that. Jalen Hurts is expected to start. So we'll see, man. But we got a lot to talk about. A lot of good players on this slate. Philly laying 3.5 on the road. And how could I bury the lead here? Neil Orfield not with us today, but filling in for him. Greg Ehrenberg at G Ehrenberg DFS. The man works hard, fills in on many shows, even when he's scheduling them himself. What's up, dude?
So a couple of things. First off, it's really the path to easiest resistance doing the schedule if somebody's out and asks for a replacement either on late notice or whatever, for me to just be like, yeah, I'll just do the show. But the other part of this too is selfishly, I'm looking at the schedule and going, hey, there's an 11-game NBA slate. I could get away from all the breaking news and all the weirdness. I could take myself off the 11-game NBA slate and I could do NFL. Is going to be easiest because EMAC was available to do the NBA show. And then what happens? All the NBA news comes out in advance, and I go into the football show. We have no clue who's starting quarterback for one of the teams. So it just follows me wherever I go.
For one game, man. Yeah, that's okay, though. It's going to be fun. We broke it down in the strategy show this morning, Gajeski and myself, and there's a lot of nuance to this slate, no doubt about it. Also, a lot of expensive players, but it's not that hard to build lineups. I mean, Dallas Goedert is, Dallas Goedert and Tyler Lockett are not priced probably where they should be. A few of these other guys we're going to get into. We'll lean on the tools as well. Top single game showdown plays tool. I'm going to give Jordan the benefit of the doubt and assume that we have already, he shook his head. We have already run the Sims as well. And yes, my man. And we can throw them up there on the screen, help you out. You know what, while you're at it, run them for, can we just do separate tabs, Jordan? Run for FanDuel and our friends who play over on Owner's Box as well. And we'll throw them out throughout the show. Let them see some exposures and lineups. Men of the people around here. You know, it's the holiday season. But let's get into it. Happy to have you guys with us. Very happy to have you here. We're gonna need this full hour for sure. Let me ask you one question, if you wouldn't mind.
Do it.
Not you. The audience.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I'll stay quiet.
That's okay. Atone for your sins here on Live Before Lock. Take a single second. Hit that thumbs up. Neil had no faith that we could get to 500 likes last time. I told him, listen, fella, the people will rally. And rally they did. We got there late, Greg, but we got there. We hit 1,000 yesterday on the deeper dive with no 9 a.m. show. So the people look out for their boys. That's all I can say.
So last night, I'm just thinking about this. Last night I did a show with EMAC, and I didn't have to talk the entire show. I just sat here. I might as well have been in the audience for the show last night. So there's a part of me right there where I was ready to jump in. You're like, I have a question to ask. It's like, oh shit, I haven't been asked a question forever on the show. And then it was a question for the audience. Like, right back to where I was yesterday.
Well, does EMAC ask audience questions too?
No, he asked himself questions.
Okay. How are his answers?
They're good. EMAC did a good job last night.
EMAC always does a good job, man. He's got a free article too that he puts out that does very well, and I would recommend you check it out. But no, appreciate you guys in advance. We'll crush it. We're about to hit 200 already, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so yet. All that goes a long way. Otherwise, we wouldn't even bother asking. But anyway, let's make it happen, man. We got what we do, Greg, by the way, on Live Before Lock, contrary to the strategy show, we kind of move around a bunch here. You know, we just try and hit on the important factors of this game. I want to start with the Eagles backfield because I have a bit of a theory for you today.
Okay.
So the Eagles have like 5, 6, 7 straight games or whatever where they're just down going into the third quarter. At halftime, they're losing. They say, oh, we want to come out early, come firing out of the gate, and it hasn't worked. They haven't been able to get out early. The deep ball isn't working. These guys' feet, I tweeted this a little while ago, are held to the fire right now after 2 embarrassing losses to the Niners and Cowboys. They've yet to really run the ball, which has been foundational for them over the years and really kind of like instrumental in them being a good football team that can win games. I think this could be one of those games where they get back to it. Seattle's allowed the second most rushing touchdowns to opposing running backs. They've been carved up on the ground in recent weeks. The Eagles have the blocking offensive line, even with Cam Jurgens out. I got to say, the more and more I look at this slate already on a betting perspective, the more I'm kind of gravitating to DeAndre Swift today. And Jalen Hurts is sick.
Yeah, I was going to say, I agree with you, but kind of for a different reason. I'm looking at neither of these quarterbacks I expect to be 100%. And yeah. I mean, I guess if Drew Lock starts a quarterback, sure, he's 100%, but is Drew Lock really ever totally 100%? So if Geno Smith plays, I think it's really because the Seahawks find themselves in like a close to must win sort of situation where all of the games are very high leverage for the Seahawks to make the playoffs at this point. So if Geno plays, I really think it's because he's not 100%, but because of how important this game is for the Seahawks. And then on the other side of the game, like you had mentioned with the Eagles, the news that we had about Jalen Hurts was he was sick over the weekend. And then last night we found out that he wasn't getting better. He was actually getting worse, which had his status very much up in the air for Monday Night Football. So I was actually fairly surprised to see that Jalen Hurts was ruled active for tonight. But also kind of like what I said with Geno Smith, I don't really expect him to be 100% either. So what's the easiest thing for the Eagles to do in a situation where they're not totally 100%? You got a great offensive line. You've got capable running backs. You've had a great run game for a lot of the year. So I agree with you. I think we're going to see them rely more on the running game, especially to open up the game tonight.
It's pretty much a lock for a Jalen Hurts flu game. But no, it's still a spot that I like. I hit DeAndre Swift anytime touchdown today on Caesars at plus 163. That's moved down to like 145, 150 in spots. But from a DFS perspective, I still think you're talking about a guy in Swift at his price point he's so much better than Kenny Gainwell, Greg. Like he's so much better than Gainwell. I wish they just wouldn't use him at all. But the fact that Hurts traveled on a separate airplane as to not infect his teammates and was apparently, like he's a tough dude. You had a feeling he'd play. Is he going to be at 100%? We don't know for sure. Like all signs kind of point towards no. I still think though, you know what? Maybe they come out, maybe they haven't learned a damn thing. Maybe they haven't. I can live with that. But if they have, and Jalen Hurts isn't right, I think you could see a lot of work for DeAndre Swift. Now, what are you doing with Jalen Hurts today? Because despite the illness and everything, it's still Jalen Hurts. The Eagles are still more than a field goal favorite on the road in a 46.5 total game.
Yeah, so one thing I wanted to do also right now is I just ran lineups through the contest generator and then through the Sims. So I'm going to be doing that more frequently during the show, just on my computer on the side than I normally would, just because I think this is going to be one where we see a lot of changes in ownership leading up to lock based on a couple of things, the health of the quarterbacks and also how the betting line might move, how the total might move. That's going to impact some of the projections for the game, which hence will impact player ownership as well. And right now, I'm getting to a lot of Jalen Hurts at the captain spot. Now, I know this is one of those situations, Lofty, where it's really, really hard to capture with data. But if the quarterback's going to be banged up on both sides of the game, Jalen Hurts, Geno Smith, or we get Drew Lock, who I don't think either of us is going to call a particularly great quarterback, well, then you kind of get to a spot where I don't love either the quarterbacks if this was a spot where we had multiple games to choose from, but that also has a trickle-down effect where it impact all of the position players. So where I ultimately land is, if neither of the quarterbacks are going to be at full capacity, it impacts everybody equally, and then the quarterbacks just end up looking good again, if that makes sense.
For sure. No, I mean, it all makes sense. Look, if there's one thing we know about Drew Lock is he's going to throw the ball deep if he starts. Like that's what he does, right? He's attempted almost 20% deep passes in the games that he's played this year. He also has 1 touchdown to 3 interceptions on those. So you can expect, potentially bad things to happen. But, I look at it on the other side of this game, not the Eagles side, but on the Seahawks side. And dude, the Eagles, even though Matt Patricia's calling plays now and Sean Desai has been relegated to the booth, does that make enough of a difference? I mean, Darius Slay is out for this game, number one. And number two, the Eagles have had, like, Matt Patricia, I don't know if there's a coach who in a week can help guys learn how to tackle. That's kind of an issue. They really struggled to tackle. So guys like DK Metcalf, whether he's breaking long plays on an actual deep target or after the catch, which we've seen him do. We saw him do it not long ago on primetime against the Cowboys. Like all of that is in play today. So if I'm looking at Metcalf and Lockett, sure, you'd like Geno Smith starting, but I have no problem going to them anyway. Even a guy like Noah Fant against the Philly team that has really struggled against the tight end position, has terrible linebackers. Even if it's Drew Lock, I don't really care that much. Not to mention that he's not expensive.
Yeah, and also want to clear up because there's some people in the chat who are saying, didn't we see the news that Geno Smith is active? Yeah, he's active. It doesn't mean he's starting, though. So this is the most recent news that we have from Adam Schefter, just to clean this up. And whenever we get official word on what's going to happen with the Seahawks quarterbacks, obviously we'll hit on that on the show. But here's why we don't know for sure who is going to be the starting quarterback. The news that we've gotten from Adam Schefter, he sent a tweet 45 minutes ago, Geno Smith is active. I took that to mean, oh, Geno Smith is starting a quarterback. But then he sends a follow-up tweet that says, just because Geno Smith is active does not mean he's starting. The Seahawks are dressing 3 quarterbacks tonight, but have not announced a starter. And then he had a third tweet from 32 minutes ago that said, the Seahawks headed to the stadium tonight thinking Drew Lock was likely starting a QB versus the Eagles, but now Geno Smith is officially active and Pete Carroll is the one deciding who will start a QB. No official word yet. So we don't know who's starting a quarterback, and usually not the case with a primetime football game, but this is really coming down to the wire who the Seahawks are going to start.
I just got a DM from, hold on. I just got a DM from Devin from
Hornbot?
Who?
Hornbot, Devin?
No. Oh. If it was a porn bot, female Devin, I might have to turn my camera off. No, it was Bob Condata. I'm assuming this is a Seattle beat writer. Yeah. Said, only Locke and Sean Mannion out early. That was about 9 minutes ago, Greg. So for warm-ups.
We had one of these recently. I can't remember who it was, where there was somebody people reporting was not on the field. And then it turned out like he was taking a shit in the locker room and he came out like 20 minutes later. So we'll see what ends up happening here. But I mean, there's a lot of mixed reports where it's like some people seem to think it's Geno. I know we have Geno starting right now in our projections, but we had Drew Lock in our projections 20 minutes ago. So we're going back and forth. But that latest report does make me think that it's probably more likely to be Drew Lock than it is to be Geno Smith tonight.
Yeah, we'll see. Other people saying that they saw video of Geno warming up. So whatever, man. We'll see. I definitely remember Lamar Jackson having to fire off a dump like mid-game. Remember waddling off the field and then running back out?
Oh, that was, Poopgate. That was massive on Twitter where everybody was speculating. So, if I'm not mistaken, didn't Lamar Jackson address in the press conference and was like, guys, I didn't have to take a shit?
I don't know. He probably did, but we all know what was going on there. He came right back out.
And why are people embarrassed about it? If you have to take a shit, you have to take a shit. Everybody does it.
Exactly.
Not girls,
granted,
but like
granted, millions of people aren't watching you struggle off the field, but yeah. Goody asked, how do I cross out players on Sims, i.e. Hurts and Geno, so I can build a few with Locke and Mariota? I mean, we intentionally don't have an option to just like completely get guys out of there. You could do ROI boosts. Greg, you might have a better answer. I will say though, this is like one of those really unique scenarios where usually we always know who's starting an hour and a half before lock. In this case, we don't.
I will say this. You don't want to play Marcus Mariota today. So Goody, these are like guardrails to help you at some point. You don't want to play Marcus Mariota tonight. Jalen Hurts is going to be starting a quarterback for the Eagles. And I don't think you want to go after Mariota. Something else also is Mariota, if I'm not mistaken, isn't like min price or anything. Marcus Mariota's salary.
He's pretty cheap, but not min sal. No, all backup quarterbacks on Showdown slates are like 6K, all of them.
Other than Drew Lock, who's 9,200 today.
No, but that was preemptive pricing.
Yeah, so Mariota is 6K. There was a point in time where backup quarterbacks would be way cheaper, where it would be way cheaper. Like, I don't think you want to play Mariota on a slate where we are going to have inactive Jalen Hurts. Now, the situation also with Geno Smith and with Drew Lock, you don't want to play the backup in that one either, because that's somebody who's really expensive, right? If Geno Smith ultimately is the starting quarterback, And then Drew Lock is $9,200. There's no realistic path other than Geno Smith getting hurt on like the first drive of the game that Drew Lock is going to be in an optimal lineup today. $9,200 as a backup quarterback. So Goody, I think you are making a mistake if you're trying to play quarterbacks that don't end up starting today.
Matter of fact, the reason they began pricing quarterbacks up like that was because this happened before. But there was also a time in 2020 where Marcus Mariota came in mid-game and solo shipped somebody $500,000. Granted, that's like a once in a, because the thing is, if Hurts were to go out in the, you know, at halftime, right? Like he doesn't come back for the second half, you're still only getting one half of football from a guy that's priced at 6K. Like you said, if he was 2K, maybe you could twist my arm and convince me that there's some logic there, but they're just not cheap enough. And yeah, Mark, that was with the Raiders. It was against the Chargers, I think. Pretty crazy. But anyway.
By the way, we had Greg Bell, who has an excellent first name, and also News God sent me this tweet. It's got some pictures of Geno Smith warming up on the field, and Greg Bell is tweeting that breaking from Lumen Field, Geno Smith passes pregame test, will start for the Seahawks tonight.
All right.
And Greg Bell has 64,000 followers on Twitter, and he is a Seahawks beat writer for the News Tribune. That is in Tacoma. So it appears that it is going to be Geno Smith starting quarterback for the Seahawks.
Look, on today's Twitter, those are all either sex bots or fixed game. What do they call themselves? Not punters. They call themselves.
Some of them call themselves punters.
Punters, yeah.
Yeah. Well, all I have to do is check my notifications and I'll find one.
Oh, dude, they're everywhere. Anyway, Jordan, someone asked if you could run the lineup generator for a certain scenario. Let me see if I can find this, because that could be fun. We could throw it up on the screen. With the lineup generator for showdowns, you can adjust the score. So like you could boost up Seattle and boost down Philadelphia. So, okay, Travis saying, can we get the Sims as if the Seahawks win 24-20? Well, what we can do is we can bring the Seahawks up 6 and the Eagles down 6, and that'll get you pretty much what you're looking at. So just go to all lineups and then go Seattle up, Philly down. There you go. Link to lineup generator in the description if you guys want to check this out. Tool's fantastic. And at a very good price. You won't find a better price on a tool like this in the industry, hands down. All right, so you have, let me just see what some of these lineups look like. Why the hell not? Myers, Goddard, Metcalf, Hurts, Walker, Charbonnet. All right, discard this one. Do a couple more here.
Throw it in the trash. No kicker.
Throw it in the garbage. You can save as many, you can save them and then upload them to CSV and see all your exposures and stack exposures on multi-game slates after you save them. You can see the optimal percentage, how chalky or contrarian it is. Okay, so it looks like it's not even changing that much. Just do a couple more for me real quick, Jordan. Keep going. Lockett, Brown, Parkinson, Smith, Hurts, Walker. Okay, so you got the Kenneth Walker positive game script there. Do one more for me. All right, so that one's a lot less chalky. Elliott at captain, gotta love it.
What do you notice? Wolfie wants all the ones with the Eagles in the captain spots.
No, stop it. You know I'm a pessimist at heart. I do think they win today, though. I thought they were going to get crushed last week, and I said as much before the game started. What do you make of playing Walker and Charbonnet in the same lineup, and do you have a preference between these guys?
Yeah, so it's something I wouldn't want to do on a 10, 11 game main NFL slate. But for something like Showdown, where there's very, very limited lineup combinations that you can make, and it's very hard to find ones that aren't going to be duped pretty heavily by the field, these are the lineups where it's like, is it very likely that Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet both go off on the same night? No, and they obviously have negative correlation. But on the flip side of it, this is a lineup combination that the field very seldomly plays. And anything you could do that's unique on a one-game slate is going to make it for a better projected ROI lineup just because you do have some uniqueness to it. So for that reason, I'm okay with playing two running backs from the same team, especially when you consider that Walker, Charbonnet, they're both going to be getting snaps. They could both be involved in the passing game as well. So there's PPR upside. So do I love it from just a pure fantasy point perspective? No. But for a 1-game slate, I do like it just because it puts you on a unique build.
Travis Meyer said, so Seattle win still gives you a lot of Philly. Yeah, well, one of my guesses for this might just be, Greg, it's a 3-point spread. So it's not like it's definitely changing things, but it's not like you're taking a 7-point spread and making it a 13-point game now and just boosting a team through the moon and another one through the floor. My guess is it's not going to change things a ton, given that it's already a relatively close spread. But you're still getting a lot of Charbonnet. Look, 55%, 53% JSN, 45% Metcalf. No, actually, matter of fact, looking at this, it's still very balanced, and we're getting more Seattle.
Yeah, and by the way, we just got another tweet that came out. Now it's Geno Smith. So apparently that other guy, Greg Bell, really putting a bad name on people with the name Greg, because
brother, what did I tell you? Sex bots and fixed game punters.
You know why this guy Greg Bell? Why I'm really starting to think he's full of shit. GREGG. That is horseshit.
Oh, he's the double G.
Yeah, the double G. That guy's a con artist. He's got too many G's in his name. He's hoarding. So if we look at this other message that I also got from News God that he just sent me from Brady Henderson, it says the Seahawks are going through stretches on the field, and I don't see Geno Smith in a uniform. And it was Drew Lock and Sean Mannion going through warm up. So yeah, it seems like this
name wrong.
It seems like this is very much up in the air here.
What are we doing, man? What is going on? How is this possible that we don't have any clue?
We don't know. And people, so I don't, here's what I don't understand. How can one reporter saying that Geno Smith went through his pregame warmups and past tests, and then some other guys like, no, he's not even on the field. We need somebody who's watching the show that's at the stadium to tell us what's really up, because these reporters aren't getting it done for us.
Yeah. Oh, here's one. Billy Montgomery said Geno Smith isn't even at the stadium.
How does he know that?
I'm joking.
How does he know that? We need boots on the ground.
But at that point, who the hell knows, man? Either way, look, let me put it to you this way. Greg, I don't honestly think it makes that big of a difference to me one way or another. If I had to guess, I think it's Drew Lock. And if it's Drew Lock at that price point, the guy airs the football out. Like, it's going to end badly. I have no issues with having Geno Smith in Philadelphia Eagles defense whatsoever. Like, you could pick 6-1 and Drew Lock could throw multiple touchdowns in this game and it wouldn't surprise anybody.
Do you think how much? So the total was 46.5. When Jalen Hurts and Geno were both questionable, I did bet the under at 46.5. At one point it went to 45. I felt like, oh, I've got some good value here. But to what you said, you don't think it makes a massive difference whether Drew Lock or Geno Smith is starting. What do you think it does for the total? Because that would have some impact on what our projections are for the game. Like, do you think Drew Lock starting instead of Geno Smith, does it matter a half point? Does it matter 1 point? Or does it really just not make any kind of impact?
I'd say like a point, probably a point. Look, it was 47.5 on Wednesday when I did the picks for every game video on the Odd Shopper channel. But also, would you be shocked if this came down a point or so because of the Jalen Hurts illness either? Like, I'm not discounting that completely either. Like, I think that has a small role in the total dropping.
And the Eagles, by the way, are now favored by 4.5 points. So at least that is some sort of an indication by the books here. Because at this time yesterday, the spread was 2.5. By the way, now the Eagles are favored by 4.5.
So we moved through 4 to 4.5.
Yes,
I mean 4 is a key number, man. Might not be 3, but so 3.5 to 4.5 on FanDuel. Yep, there it is. Okay. That's pretty significant.
Yeah, and that's also the reason I ask is because when we do our next projections update, where we do have the betting lines as part of our algorithm, that is going to make it so that Eagles players will project slightly better and Seahawks players will project slightly worse, especially because the total hasn't moved. It's just which team's expected to score the points has changed a little.
Hopefully we know in the next few minutes, but let me ask you this way then. You already got my thoughts on this. I'm 100% fine with Drew Lock. It's a showdown slate. their dogs. Eagles run game has struggled at times recently, but that's also against really good football teams. Dallas at home, Christian McCaffrey. I mean, I elaborate? But the run defense is still good. Like, it's still one of the best in the league. A lot of it, like, too, with Buffalo, they allowed a lot, but that was Josh Allen. Drew Lock's not someone that's going to pick up 80 yards on the ground. They really struggled with rushing quarterback. Even like Patrick Mahomes put up a lot of yards on the ground. I still think Drew Lock, if he's in, is going to have to throw a lot.
Yeah, I mean, especially just because of what the game script is expected to be. Or if they're going to be trailing at home late in the game, then yeah, it's probably going to be Drew Lock airing it out. And here's what I think. I think the overall expectation for the Seahawks goes down with Drew Lock being quarterback, but I think you could make a case that it makes the upside maybe slightly higher for guys like DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett for the things that you had said before. Drew Lock, a quarterback we know is going to air it out and throw the ball down the field. And there are times where he has games where he does not look totally terrible. They're not all that frequent, but because we know he's a quarterback that has shown to have some sort of upside, there's still a ceiling for the Seahawks passing game.
I think so. What if Geno Smith plays? Like, do you have any differentiator here? Are you playing this any differently one way or the other? It's tough, right?
It's hard to say because I have to rerun lineups, and it depends. Like, is Drew Lock going to be? Because like right now, if you run lineups through the Sims, we've got Geno Smith somewhere around 40-ish% owned. I don't know that Drew Lock is going to be that kind of owned though, right? So that's going to be a really big, important part of my lineups when I run through the contest generator and the Sims. Is if Drew Lock is going to be 25% owned when Geno Smith was going to be 40%, then yeah, it would make a pretty big difference in terms of what I do with the Seahawks offense.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, they're essentially the same price.
Yeah, just $200 difference.
Not a big difference at all. Yeah. Hey, by the way, owner's box, guys, if you're there yet, you already know. Jordan, throw the Sims up. I want to see what the top lineups look like. Then we're going to get into some nitty gritty here with wide receivers, other pass catchers on both sides, and build out some lineups. But if you're not there yet, link in the description and in chat. Just make sure to turn your ad blocker off. That'll take you where you need to go. And you can turn it right back on. But you know how some of these sites are with pop-ups, even though it's not a pop-up, but whatever. Up to $500 first match deposit bonus. And when you sign up, they sprinkle in a few tickets too. $5 DFS ticket. Why not take advantage? Try and build your bankroll. $5 lightning lineups ticket. Hey, may not seem like a ton, but you're getting them for free just by signing up. So sign up, deposit, take a 100% deposit match bonus up to $500. And I mean, really, Greg, the biggest factor here, I say it every single time we do these shows. Look, it's 41% filled right now. This is 41% filled in their bigger contest with less than 30 minutes to go. So I think you're going to see overlay on these once again, which just means there's dead money in these contests.
Yeah, and I think the biggest reason for that is because people are looking at it like, yeah, there's uncertainty at quarterback. I don't know who to play. And that's one of the things too that's a benefit of the tools we have on the site is when we officially know who the quarterback is, our data is going to be updated, and they'll be able to run lineups through the contest generator and the Sims pretty quickly. But yeah, people freaking out in the chat who's starting a quarterback. If we had to guess right now, I would guess Drew Lock.
Me too. I would too. But anyway, you want to check it out, guys. Up to $500 first match deposit bonus. 2 separate $5 tickets when you sign up. A lot of overlay. And on the main sites or multi-game sites, super flex. You never have to worry about playing a defense and wondering, thinking I could have won. But the Bills put up 39, and I had the Bucks who gave me 0. Nope, never. You can super flex, meaning you play 2 quarterbacks in the lineup if you want. A lot of strategy. As Ben always says, it's an unsolved format. So check that out if you haven't done so yet. And by the way, throwing this up there, Jordan's got it on the screen. I do this because ever since we did this and we had the guy bink first place on a showdown in the parking lot of his softball game, I feel compelled to throw these lineups up there. Highest simmed ROI lineup for owner's box: Smith, Devontae Smith, Geno Smith, Goddard, Metcalf, Noah Fant, Jalen Hurts, Lockett, Olamide Zaccheaus, DeAndre Swift, there's my guy, and Devontae Smith. And number 3, Geno, JSN, Dallas Goedert, DeAndre Swift, and Kenneth. Well, I like that lineup quite a bit, except Geno probably doesn't play. You could swap in Drew Lock for that if you want. Anyway, check it out. And our Sims tool obviously supports that as well. All right. Let's move things around a little bit. So we talked Swift. I do want to get your thoughts before we get to the pass catchers on Kenny Gainwell, if you have any interest there. For what it's worth, I like Charbonnet more than Walker just because the price gap is massive. I don't think it's insane in large field tournaments to play them together, but I don't love it either because I don't think they're as involved enough in the passing game to be able to coexist if things get away from them, or even if it doesn't, that would be even worse. I like Charbonnet a little bit better at his price point. What about Kenny Gainwell? Any interest there today behind DeAndre Swift?
So I think that he's somebody who we could look at as a cheap running back who has some utility on the slate. But also, as I look through the lineups that I have built, I'm not getting to a ton of Kenneth Gainwell. Like, he's only in one of my top 150 lineups that I ran through the Sims. So he's somebody who, at least per running lineups through here, like, it's going to be really hard for me to prioritize him or say that he's the guy I want to save money with, because I'm really not getting to him when I'm running lineups through our data. So if I'm going to assume this is going to be a little bit more of a heavy a run heavy game plan, I'm more apt to go to DeAndre Swift. And then on the other side of the game, Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker. And then Gainwell is probably my fourth favorite running back in the game.
Man, this is what if Gino is just taking a dump, like just firing off a fat dump, and he trots onto the field right before kickoff, like during the national anthem, and plays? I think it's unlikely, but we still don't have word. We had a super chat from Goody. Rain, and more rain, RBs and kickers. Hey, kicker. I mean, Jake Elliott in the rain against the Bills drilled a 59, right, to take him to overtime. Question is, and by the way, anybody there, can anyone tell me what the rain, or seen reports online, like what the rain actually looks like? Is it bad? Be helpful. I don't know. People are watching the show and DMing me, so somebody's doing something, you know? Somebody. Maybe somebody traveled to the game that is out of state and entered their lineups ahead of time. Anyway, he said, question is Gainwell or Swift, or both in the same lineup, DK 20 max? Yeah, I mean, first of all, Swift for me. I don't think Gainwell and Swift is insane if they do go super run heavy. Like, if the Eagles really do change things up and get back to their roots, which is won them a lot of football games in the past, even though they try and get cute and outsmart themselves, then Gainwell or Swift. I'd almost prefer Gainwell and Swift over just Gainwell, as crazy as that sounds, Greg, because I feel like if Gainwell gets there, it's because they run the ball 40 times tonight.
Yeah. So, and oh, by the way, just a word from the data team, because I asked what we're going to do with the quarterback since it's so uncertain. They said what we're going to do for now is leave Gino as the starter in the projections. The reason being is because if we swap to Lock and people build lineups with Lock at quarterback, you can't swap from Lock to Gino, but you can do vice versa because Gino is more expensive. So just with the uncertainty, we're going to leave Geno Smith as the starting quarterback in our projections for the time being.
Okay. So what would you do if we go like 3 minutes up until Lock? One of the easiest things would be like, not to X him out, but just global swap to Drew Lock. Because you could do that. Drew Lock is $200 cheaper, not more expensive. Like, how would you play this? If you're playing the 20 max, you have 150 lineups. Hell, even if you have 5 lineups and you don't have time to adjust them, how would you play this news if we find out very, very short before Lock?
Yeah, so I do think it makes most sense to just build lineups right now with Gino as the quarterback, just because of what I said before, because he's more expensive. Now, does that mean that I think he's going to start? No, I still think Drew Lock is more likely to start, but we don't know that with 100% certainty. And it seems like we're not going to know until right before the game starts, like you had said. So I think the most reasonable way to do this is build lineups with Geno Smith at quarterback and then just global swap to Drew Lock if he is the quarterback who's named as the starter, just because from a pricing standpoint, that's what makes the most sense. And it's not like we would have Drew Lock projected for like 5 less fantasy points than Geno. They'd be projected in the same neighborhood of fantasy points, even if Geno would be a little bit higher.
That's how I would do it as well. Yep. That's how I intend on doing things right now. So no issues with that whatsoever. It does throw a wrench into the works, but it's not going to preclude me from playing. Like, I'm not, put it this way, Greg, I'm not going to be disappointed that I have a lot of Metcalf or Lockett just because Drew Lock's out there. This is a lot different going to Drew Lock, someone that is willing to throw the football and will throw deep and can connect on some big plays. This is a lot different than if you went from like Jalen Hurts to, or what's a good example of just a good quarterback down to a guard, like Justin Herbert down to Easton Stick. This is the furthest thing from that.
Yeah, exactly. It would be way more impactful, and it'd be a big pain they asked for us if it was Jalen Hurts is questionable, and we don't know if it's him or Mariota who's starting. Yep. So this is not ideal. We wish we knew who the quarterback is, but I do think with this coming down to the wire, Geno being active and still there being uncertainty about who the actual starter is, I think that Drew Lock is going to go under-owned in tournaments.
We have about 20 minutes to go, and we still don't know. Yeah. You might be right. What do you think realistically he comes in at if this is the case? Like if we find out 5-10 minutes before lock.
All right. So Geno Smith.
Because I'm not sure if he is under-owned. I'm wondering, does everybody just global swap because they're the same, because he's $200 cheaper? It's an easy fix.
Here's what I think most people do. I think most people go, this situation is a headache. I want nothing to do with it. I'm not putting Geno Smith or Drew Lock in as my quarterback. So just based on our data, we had Geno projected for like just under 50% ownership. My guess is that Drew Lock ends up being like in the mid 30%.
Adam Schefter. The signs continue to point towards Drew Lock as Seattle's starting quarterback tonight. But there hasn't been, and apparently won't be, any official announcement from the team.
Oh, so by the way, now this really makes me think people are going to be like, fuck this, not playing a quarterback.
We might never know. We might not know until the game starts. Are you even allowed to do, like, what? Is that even a thing?
Apparently it is. I know it's a thing in the NBA. It happens every night.
You know, it's so funny because these leagues tiptoed around being affiliated with sports books for so long. And now they finally dove in head first, right? Like you look at any broadcast now and they've got live odds on the bottom of the screen everywhere. They got this and that, all this, right? Parlays from hosts and analysts at halftime, all this crap. You would think they'd be like, yo, Pete, you gotta say who's starting in this game.
Here's where it gets tricky though. Where and I've brought this up too with NBA situation where people say, well, why don't you just announce earlier in the day who it is that's going to be the starters, who's going to play, who's going to be in, who's going to be out. What if though, which seems to be the situation with the Seahawks here, where Geno Smith's dealing with a groin injury and they legitimately do not know until he's on the field and warming up if he's good enough to play.
Stop it. They know.
I don't think in some of these sometimes they do. I don't think 100% of the time they do though. I think that players often have to go out on the field and actually warm up to see if they're physically able to play. So do I,
but I'm saying by now they know.
Yeah, by now they probably know.
Like by now they have to know. I'm not saying they knew at 11 Eastern at all. Or let's say 2 Eastern, 11 in the morning, West Coast time. They got to know. They got to know. Darren said, no, they don't, Dave. All caps. They don't know 18 minutes before the game starts. They don't know. So like what? 7 minutes from now, Geno's going to be like, fuck it. I actually don't feel that bad. That doesn't make any sense.
Dude, they're giving him all the horse tranquilizer he could physically take in the locker room. There's a guy stabbing his lungs like the Chargers' old team doctor with a needle. and then he's gonna go out on the field 3 minutes before the game and he's gonna see, I've done therapy all day. They've got all the painkillers in me I could possibly handle. Well, let's see how the body responds.
By the way, guys, we have 2,300 people watching with us. I humbly request that we get to 500 likes. 196, Greg. See, hitting 196. Generally, Neil takes the pessimistic approach. We have 2,300 people watching with us going, what the hell's going on in this game? Well, we're all waiting together, pins and needles. While we do, take a single second. Tap that thumbs up here on the show. Get us north of 5. We forget. It's all right. Just a subtle reminder to get us over that number. Danger Russ says 5 easy. Yeah, I think so. We'll get there. Justin Atone, my man. All right. Let's take a look at the Sims tool for DraftKings for a second. And we'll just use Geno as a proxy for Drew Lock right now, Greg, because you can't blame our data team for this one. You just can't.
We could blame, we could blame Pete Carroll. Who,
well, it's funny you say that, because anybody that thinks he doesn't know, anyway, can we consider the source? This is Drew Lock this is Pete Carroll we're talking about. Come on. Like, if it's Pete Carroll or Andy Reid, you immediately know that they're just jerking you around. Or Arthur Smith at this point, because he just apparently, as he said, wants us to lose. Like, he is a masochist, it appears. All right.
Now, my conspiracy theory all year about him, by the way.
He's a sadist. What's that? Sorry.
Remember, that's been my conspiracy theory about Arthur Smith all year.
I know, you had some wild ones about Arthur Smith. Let's take a look. All right, so pull it up. By the way, guys, if you are looking to get in, if you've been on the fence about the Sims tool for a while now, like, do I join? Do I not? If you're going to do it, you have so much football this upcoming week. Like, if you wanted to do a week, link in the description and in chat, either for the Sims data package or the max. The only difference with the data package is in the contest generator, you can't generate as many lineups, but it's still great if you're playing single entry and stuff like that. Max, if you're playing, large field MME contests. If you haven't done it yet, the tool that's won people over, won a milli maker for somebody just 3 weeks ago, and many 6-figure. Greg, this guy's up like $250,000 in basketball using it. No joke. We have Monday Night Football, Thursday night, Saturday, 2 games, Sunday, full slate plus a showdown, Monday 3 games on Christmas. You're getting so much football this week. Best time to jump in. So if you want to check it out, link down there. All Greg's tutorials are on YouTube. Our DMs are open if you ever have questions too. All right, so let's check this out. Go to lineups for a second, Jordan, then we'll check exposures here. Okay, here we go. Seahawks, Drew Lock is expected to start despite the fact that Geno is active.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, Geno is definitely starting, right?
I mean,
we're getting thrown a curveball.
We've got Adam Schefter just said Seahawks quarterback Drew Lock is expected to start tonight versus the Eagles, despite the fact that Geno Smith is active. So yeah, let's say with a pretty high degree of confidence now, it's going to be Drew Lock. So any lineups that we've built right here that have Geno Smith in them, it's Drew Lock, right? We're just going to consider that Drew Lock.
I think so. Yeah, I think so. All right. Tell me what you're seeing here in some of these top lineups. If you just maximize the screen, by the way, on YouTube is the easiest way to see them clearly. For those of you guys out there that are trying to do so as well, just max it. They should come in pretty clear for you. First thing I'm seeing is that we're still getting a lot of Jalen Hurts at captain.
Yep, a lot of them. And that was the same thing that I got too when I was running lineups really throughout the day. Whenever I've been playing around with the contest generator and the Sims tool, it's pretty consistently been getting to me like 50% of my lineups with Jalen Hurts at the captain spot. So our data does really like Jalen Hurts there. And yeah, I don't think the field is going to appropriately be playing Drew Lock considering all the nonsense that's going on.
Do you think there will be any dip in Hurts ownership? Maybe some like lower stakes contests or any contest because of this injury or this illness?
I think there was going to be earlier in the day, but I think people are so obsessed with the Seahawks quarterback situation that I think people probably have forgotten by now there's ever anything wrong with Jalen Hurts.
You're not wrong. By the way, we crushed 500. Did I mention that yet? Thank you, guys. You're the best. I knew it would happen. G Hunter said it's locked. Just showed him coming out of the locker room. Raymond, I wish the news came. Yeah, I kind of hear you, Raymond. It would be sweet. Like if we guessed right, it would be kind of cool if we didn't get that news until super late. And then people just forgot to global swap or like didn't get it in, and we just had dead lineups. That would be pretty cool. Matt Butler on Twitter, what's up, Matt? Said Laffy, Greg, this feels like college football where this happens 10 times every week. At least 90% of the time, the starter is the player that's taking the snaps with first team. Then in-stadium announcement almost never means anything. Looks like lock. Yeah, no, it looks like lock. I can't play college DFS and PA, unfortunately. But
dude, I did one college football live before lock with Gajeski this year. And I was like, all right, doing it with Matt. We're going to build lineups. The highest owned player on the slate got ruled out 10 minutes after the slate started with no information at all. They were just like, yeah, he didn't show up today. He wasn't there.
oh my God. Yeah, that's just terrible, man. It's terrible. But that shouldn't happen today, hopefully. I don't know. Go to exposures for me, Jordan. A couple of things I want to take a peek at here. Because my guess, Greg, is that we're still going to see a lot of Hurts at captain and at flex. I want to see how much DeAndre Swift we're getting as well. Now just go to exposures and then, you could do just sort by position instead of filtering, just sort by position. No, to the left where the arrow is. Right there. Yeah, there you go. So Hurts, AJ Brown, and then just kind of trace amounts of everybody else, Greg.
Yeah, by far here, we've got Jalen Hurts showing up a whole bunch. AJ Brown, obviously there's a correlation there. But I'm going to tell you what I'm doing in single entry, Lofty. I'm playing Drew Lock at captain in single entry. And I'm just taking a shot in the dark here that his ownership is so difficult to project with all the nonsense going on that he's going to be under. I know I'm probably sounding like a broken record to the audience. I brought that up, 5 times over the course of the show, but I think this is something that's so hard to capture with data that I'm going to go with Drew Lock as my quarterback in single entry.
I don't hate it at all. Yeah, I don't hate it whatsoever. And at the very least, let's see, I did a run. How much captain Geno did I get? I'm using Geno again as a proxy for Drew Lock.
Yeah.
Obviously you would make some tweaks on your side, but I'm still getting a lot of Geno. So I think I'll probably get a lot of Drew Lock because I'm going to be using the Sims tool for this anyway. I made a couple adjustments, nothing crazy. Little bump to Swift here. Just a bit of a bump to DeAndre Swift today, Greg.
I don't hate it. If I had to boost one player in the Sims right now, it would be DeAndre Swift.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the boost. Look, we could be way off on this. It's entirely possible, but I don't mind boosting him a little bit in a game like this. But also, look, you sometimes with showdowns, you have to kind of tell yourself a story, and if you don't see it this way, definitely don't play it this way, right? Like you tune into this show, hopefully get some information, some insight, some data. Look at the Sims tool if you're not a premium sub. Look at the lineup generator, all that stuff. And I hope it helps you guys. But there's going to be takes that we have, and it just so happens Greg and I are aligned. Like, hey, we think Swift could get more work because of Hurts' illness. Maybe because of the weather, maybe because the Eagles have been embarrassed the last couple of games with that game planning, and something needs to change. But Greg, if it's not seen that way, like sometimes you have to play showdowns the way that you see them potentially happening.
Absolutely. It's something that is very game script dependent. And by the way, also Jordan, we just updated our data. Drew Lock is now in our data. We've got updated ownership projections. He's projected to start. So you might have to refresh the page, but if you just rerun everything, we're going to get some lineups with Drew Lock in them now.
Oh, we have little pop-ups. Seattle QB situation. And then that's pretty cool.
Yeah. We've got lots of side conversations going on in the Slack channel as well with the best.
So wait, are we updated in the generator yet?
Yep. Yeah.
We are.
See, Drew Lock.
Okay.
Drew Lock is there now. If everything,
I got to get some lineups in.
Yep. Rerun everything, and we'll get Drew Lock into lineups now as well.
All right. Talk to the people for a few minutes here, Greg.
Yeah, for sure. So we've also got Jordan Klein right here running lineups on screen. So building lineups through the contest generator. And what this is going to do is going to build you a field of lineups that's expected to mirror what the field is going to do. And then after that, we go through the Sims tool, which then all those lineups play against each other 40,000 times in a tournament setting. And that helps us sort the lineups by which lineups ended up making the most money in all of those 40,000 tournament runs. So that's what we're doing right here. And now that we've got everything updated for Drew Lock at quarterback, we are going to be seeing some actual results here with the real quarterback situation with the Seahawks. Not any more guessing, because if we're being honest, what have Loughran and I here done for the last 50 minutes? We've jerked each other off and we've guessed who's going to start at quarterback for the Seahawks. No more guesswork. We know who it's going to be. We know it's going to be Drew Lock. And now we are going to find out what that means for our data here. And then also, it's going to impact minorly, but a little bit, some of the other skill position players on the Seahawks as well. But big thing, especially if you guys are not aware, is that Drew Lock, according to Adam Schefter, is going to be starting at quarterback today for the Seahawks. And they really, really better not screw us again. If we find out there's another quarterback change 3 minutes from now, my computer's going out the window.
Yeah, dude, it's gonna be Sean Mannion.
That would be the worst. They just go somebody else totally off the board, not related.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, Tyler Lockett is starting at quarterback today.
Yeah, it's gonna somehow be Sean Mannion and Carson Wentz for the Eagles.
Yeah. It's gonna suck too. But it is what it is. I think we're good. I mean, look, I think I think this will help us. We're fine. We have the news. You can make your decisions. I'm exporting these lineups now and doing one more run with different payout structure. Always, guys, make sure if you're using the Sims 2 that with the payout structure, like if you're playing the play action or something, or you're playing, compared to the like a milli or a 500K up top, make sure to adjust the payout to first percent up top, like from 10 to 30%, because it definitely makes a difference.
Yeah. Especially if you are playing in, some of the low stakes tournaments that are really flat payout structures. Like you don't need to be quite as contrarian in some of those, especially not on like main slates.
No, not at all. But it's making it easier. So, I had one more question for you.
Yep.
How do you approach defenses and kickers in a game like this? We spent so much time on Drew Lock and Geno, rightfully so, right?
Yeah.
And the backfields and the wide receivers, all that stuff is important. But how are you approaching the kickers and defenses? Anything specific that you're getting into here?
Yeah, so I actually do. Well, with the weather, I don't really think it's a great kicker game. But with all the uncertainty with the quarterbacks, like, Jalen Hurts not being 100%, he's dealing with an illness. Drew Lock, who's always been a high variance quarterback. When you combine bad weather with a quarterback who, number one, is not good on one side of the game, a quarterback who's sick on the other side of the game, I do certainly think you make a case for defenses in this game, just because this could be a very sloppy game where the quarterbacks might struggle for different reasons. One because of an illness and one because he's just flat out bad.
Yeah, you're probably right. Also, a guy like Jake Elliott can just constantly put up monster numbers. So it's again, one of those spots where it's Jake Elliott could have a big game and this game could just be ugly. Like, what happens if the run game is stagnant for Philly and Drew Lock just stinks and there aren't any pick sixes, but each team continuously puts each other in good field position? It is possible dealing with a sick quarterback and then dealing with likely Drew Lock here. Look, Greg, honestly, I don't think anybody would be shocked if there were a lot of field goal opportunities in this game.
To an extent, the problem still, though, because the weather, it's supposed to be windy, it's supposed to be raining.
Is it that windy? I didn't think it was going to be that windy.
Yeah, I saw a little. I'll pull up the most recent. So I've got this really good weather source, Google, and let's see what this is saying about the most recent weather in Seattle. It would help if I spelled Seattle right.
Yes, it would.
Seattle weather. And yeah, actually not that much wind. It looks like we're getting less than 10 miles per hour, but I do get concerned with kicking the ball still in the rain, because it does look like it's supposed to be raining through at least the first half of the game. Second half of the game might clear up a little bit, but it does look like it's going to be wet.
Yeah. Andrew said it's windy. Why do you think Prize Picks did a kicker promo? Yeah, I don't know, dude. Look, here's the thing. If you're that way, the reason I don't worry too much about the rain in a game like this, I'll happily lean on the Vegas total for a game. Mm-hmm. And only a few days ago, it was at 47. BetMGM still has it at under 40 or at 47. Granted, the under's at minus 115, but Caesar still has 46, FanDuel 45.5. So kind of weird across the board, but it hasn't dropped to this hasn't dropped to like 41 points. So I'm not super worried about it.
Something else of note, by the way, is the Eagles are now 5.5-point favorites, Laffy.
Wow, really?
Yeah, so that's big movement. Big movement.
I'll tell you what, I don't think that's all just because of the Drew Lock situation.
It's a lot of it because of Drew Lock, though.
I think so too, for sure. But I'm not sure it's only because of that. Either way,
No,
like you said,
it's certainly not only because of it, but it's the main factor.
oh, no question. Yeah, if it was Geno, I still think it moves like to 4 probably from the 3.5, but yeah, 5.5, which means the Eagles get shit on today. Man, that would be miserable. Anyway, final predictions for the game, as we always do on this show, Greg. By the way, appreciate all you guys hanging out. I know it's a crazy slate, so the fact that you're here hanging with us for this one and not anywhere else means a lot, and we're grateful for that. And as always, we'd love to have you join the community here outside of Stochastic YouTube, like the Discord, the Sims, all of our tools, all of that stuff. We'd love to have you here. Links down in the description, as you know already. Thanks, Johnny. Appreciate you, man. But who do you think will be the optimal captain tonight when all is said and done?
Who I think it's going to be and who I want it to be are.
Yeah, no. That's how we usually do. Who you think it's going to be and who you want it to be. I was going to ask you both.
I think it's going to be Jalen Hurts.
You want it to be Drew Lock.
I want it to be Drew Lock very badly.
I think it's going to be Hurts, and I want it to be DeAndre Swift.
Hurts is clearly the most common answer, right? We had him projected for a ton of ownership in the captain spot. He showed up in a bunch of lineups in the Sims, but I'm just hoping people didn't go out and play Drew Lock. We'll see.
Scott says, live before Drew Lock. Yeah, dude. Fucking under the gun, baby. Anyway, appreciate you guys. You're the best. We'll see you guys back. Oh, by the way, Greg, great show, man. Nice fill-in effort, brother. That was seamless.
Did my best. I was uncomfortable having to talk, like unlike what I did last night, where I just kind of sat here and got to be a viewer, but did what I could to find the information on Twitter.
Anyway, follow Greg at G Ehrenberg DFS. He's a good follow. Me at Laffy_D, LOUGHY_D. And shout out to our friend behind the virtual glass, Jordan Klein, for producing this one. We'll see you back. A lot of football this week. We'll see you a lot for the next one. Peace.